for the NHL. 16 million people watched the final between U.S. and Canada. A huge bright spot in what's been a down tick in watching for NHL. Did you get a chance to watch the Four Nations? What are your thoughts? What kind of your overall opinions for the NHL in general?
Well, I'm actually I'm happy you brought that up because I really wanted to talk about how successful the Four Nations was compared to other All-Star games in our sports that we watch and talk about all the time, right? So you mentioned that the Four Nations had 16 million viewers, which is between the 6 million in Canada and the 9.3 million in the US. That's an incredibly big draw, right? And all that, sports media was talking about that week was just, why isn't this an every year thing? Which I'm sure if they did it every year, it would lose a little bit of its appeal. But I know the NHL wants to do it to where whatever in that 4-year cycle the Winter Olympics is, like whatever that opposite year is, they want to do this Four Nations tournament, right? So it'd be something where next year it's the Olympics, maybe they have a year where everything's normal, they do Four Nations again, and then a normal year, and then the Winter Olympics. So they definitely want to bring that into like a more normal kind of routine, little schedule. The thing that I found the most interesting about it, though, yes, like the games were, especially the U.S. Canada games, they were very electric. I watched the final, and that overtime it was so neat seeing the best of the best in the NHL go against each other, and just you could tell how hard the guys were playing. Whether it was for the American flag or the Canadian flag, they had a lot of pride, right? And I think that's something that if I had to pinpoint what's missing from All-Star games across all the leagues, it's pride. The NFL Pro Bowl games is, it's backyard flag football now, and just like, contests on who can throw through obstacles and who can do the weirdest, goofiest. It's not football anymore, right? And I think it's a fine idea, but it's not like an all-star game or a Pro Bowl. If you look at what the NBA's done with their dunk contest, their 3-point contest, and then the game where these guys are just like throwing up half court shots and not actually like, playing any like form of defense or anything. If you look at what the NHL did with the Four Nations and the 16 million viewers for the final, I think that was a blueprint of how do you want fans to engage. And I did a little research, and the last tackle football NFL Pro Bowl was in 2022. That drew 6 million, right? 6 million people. So just slightly over what Canada alone tuned in for the Four Nations, right? This year's games had an average of 4.7 million viewers on those days that they were doing their contests and their barbecue games. It was the lowest ever viewership for a Pro Bowl or Pro Bowl games besides the COVID year.
Yeah.
With the NBA, it was 4.7 million people tuned in for the All-Star game this year, which was a 13% decrease from last year, and it almost matched the all-time lowest rating. The only sport that's not doing terrible as far as an All-Star game would be MLB. They only have 7.44 million that tuned in last year, but it was a little bit of an average, right? So it was a little bit of an increase from the last year, but a little bit of a decrease from 2 years ago. So at least with baseball, it seems to be kind of a little bit steadier. But I think that baseball actually has the opportunity to, next summer with the World Baseball Classic, I think baseball is the one that should take a page from the Four Nations. And I think they should actually make it to where they should do something akin to the Four Nations, because it's already kind of built into their culture, right? Basketball only does the Olympics. I think they could, it's been proposed like doing like an all-star thing of like a little, like instead of an all-star game, maybe an all-star series where it's US versus the world, and maybe you have like a best 2 out of 3 games or something. I just feel that it's you got to get players to care, right? And I think with the NFL, we saw that between, I believe Mac Jones was a Pro Bowl quarterback this year, if I'm not mistaken. It became the deferral bowl where,
Yeah,
like one by one by one by one, everybody that was elected to it didn't want to show up. So went to like, a six string quarterback as your starter now. I don't
yeah,
think in the NFL they care to do the games thing. I think basketball is, I mean, if you look at some of the footage from that weekend, a lot of those players were just there to have a great time, not
yeah,
really care about any of the event itself, that's fine. But I feel that of all the leagues, baseball as a whole is struggling as far as TV deals, marketing. It's getting a little bit surpassed, right? I think baseball is becoming a regional sport, not a national sport. Being in
yeah,
Colorado, we had the Colorado Rockies, and I can count on one hand the years that they've been successful enough to actually pay attention. And it's really hard in a league where the Dodgers can sign whoever they want and throw that salary into, oblivion. It's
yeah,
two different sports, right? So I think with baseball, they're the one that's not struggling the most with their All-Star game, but they also have the ability, because it's already kind of built into their culture, to make the
yeah,
biggest change. Because I feel like in the middle of the year, if they had their version of a World Baseball Classic, but it was like a Four Nations thing where same thing. You do like a best if you actually copy the exact blueprint of the Four Nations. Baseball's used to doing double headers, right? I think you could very
yeah,
easily, in a span of a week, you could have this Four Nations esque World Baseball Classic on the alternating years, right? The same way I'm, saying that the NHL is thinking about doing the Four Nations with the Winter Olympics. I think baseball could absolutely do that. And I think it would get a lot of people talking, even if it wasn't, for me being a Rockies fan, it's hard to see a fan of baseball come July when they're 30 games back of first place. So
yeah,
I think the World Baseball Classic would actually help infuse caring into some of
yeah,
those regional pockets of the country that they normally wouldn't care about or have lost interest by then.
yeah. And baseball has done some interesting with like the um not Angels in the outfield, but
Great.
the cornfield game we'll call it.
Yeah.
Um,
The Field of
this
Dreams game.
Field of Dreams game. Thank you. They've done some cool stuff. NHL's done some cool stuff with the Stadium Series and stuff like that. To me, honestly, NFL, I don't care with the Pro Bowl game. I prefer the little mini games they have the day before. That's what I remember watching as a kid. Was watching that Saturday and watching the quarterbacks of the ball deep. To me, that's more fun. I don't care about the game. It doesn't mean anything. Has no significance to anything. No home field advantage. I don't really care. Doesn't make a difference to me. I'm cool with the flag football thing. Just make it easier. Don't just like have games in the middle. Just make it day one, just games, fun stuff, whatever. Game two is flag football. I'm cool with that. So there's been a huge increase in flag football popularity across the U.S. and the world, really, really. So I'm cool doing a flag football game. Football, you can't make it more safe, and you want stars to come. You have to make it non-contact. So I'm cool with the flag football. I'm cool with it. Do the fun game stuff. That's what I remember, anyways. Baseball, we said the best All Star game. Baseball just slow to change in some things. I don't know if we're seeing major changes to that on that front. But moving on from hockey, we got basketball playoffs coming happening. We got basketball trades happening. March Madness happening. I mean, this is the time. With football gone, we got basketball now.
Yeah.
The
We have a lot
Lakers,
we have a lot to talk
Lakers,
about.
we do. I mean, Lakers. I'm gonna say just completely just surprising the whole entire league, bringing in Luca, and just I think everybody was completely shocked by that. Not really sure to make of that. They've they've done great. The Warriors bringing in Jimmy Butler has been huge. They bounced back. Um, Dallas Mavericks look dead now. They're done. Especially with the Kawhi injury now. So who moving like the playoffs? Who should we be watching? Who the movers? Who the shakers? What we got to look forward to next month or so?
Well, and I know we went to basketball, but before we finish the hockey talk, that they're not the only team that's made a flurry of trades for their playoff push. The Colorado Avalanche have actually been setting some records this year as far as their trade frequency and how quickly
Okay.
they've been making the trades. As far as playoff push goes, we're gonna have to do a deep dive in our next one, our
Yep.
next podcast, just because of how much there is to go over with hockey and basketball. I know we're
Yep.
in the home stretch now, to where you know the the amount of trades that were made on Friday for the NHL trade deadline,
Yep.
it was hard to keep track, right? And it
Yeah.
was actually a flurry of
Yeah.
movements. And the Avalanche, obviously my team, they made so many great trades. I am beyond stoked for what the Avalanche are going to do. And watching the players that we just traded for, they were making a difference in Saturday's game, that 7-4 victory over the Maple Leafs in Ball Arena. They were flying all over the ice. They were making an impact left and right in their first games, between whether it was Nelson or Coyle. Even Lindgren was getting in on some defensive stops. I just feel like the Avalanche have a lot to look forward to, but
Mhm.
they're not the only team that made some trades, and we're definitely going to have to go into that kind of a deep dive in our next one. And as far as basketball goes, I got to give credit to your Oklahoma City Thunder and your most valuable flopper in SGA. I feel like watching that game today with the Nuggets and the Thunder, you cannot discount how solid the Thunder are on defense. You cannot discount how clutch this young team is becoming. These
Mhm.
guys that are growing together, and actually, last year I feel like they saw that they had the potential to be great. So I think this year they are going to be great, right? I
Yeah.
think the Lakers and the Luca thing, again, that's another topic I have penciled in for our next talk, because there's a lot of conspiracies that came out after that trade that I definitely wanted to touch on. But the Jimmy Butler thing and the Warriors, that's kind of gone under the radar just because of the Luca to LA deal that happened right before.
Mhm.
So Jimmy Butler and the Warriors, they've been streaking. The West once again looks so competitive. I was looking at it just today, and the as far as the playoffs go for basketball, if you look at the East, the top six teams are the only teams that are actually above 500. The seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th seeds that would be in the playoff games. The 10th seed would be the Chicago Bulls with a record of 26-38. The East is incredibly top heavy, right? They've got the
Yeah.
Cavs and the Celtics that are leading the charge, and I know the Knicks to an extent too, but I feel like they fade anytime they go against a legitimate opponent. So the Cavs and Celtics obviously are going to battle it out for who's representing the East. But when you look at the West, between the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Warriors, people have been sleeping on the Grizzlies. They've had a really good year. The Rockets are doing a lot better than I expected them to do. The Timberwolves were just there in the Western Conference Finals last year, and at 36-29, they're in the seventh seed position, right? So
Yeah.
if you look at the West, you could make the case for 4 to 5 teams that could be there at the end. It's going to be a really exciting time.
Yeah. I think in recent years the East has always been very top heavy. I don't think that's anything that's new. I think it's a couple teams each year, but it's really two or three teams in the East. And the West has always been the much more competitive
Dogfight.
conference,
Yeah.
for sure. So, being in OKC, it's great to see them do something. They're young still, so I have to watch how that goes. And with Luca coming in, I think that changes a lot, for the Lakers for sure. But I think we do owe that to dive a little bit deeper. We need to give it its respectful time due. So
And we
once
will.
you get past this crazy free agent time period NFL is going on, we're going to have some time to break down NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs,
Yeah.
everything like that.
And
That's for sure.
I do want to end with a little bit of a March Madness, a little appetizer for you though.
I
So I
have a March
know.
Madness thing as well that
Why,
I need your
why
help
don't
with
you go
also.
first? Why don't you go
Okay,
first?
so mine's combining March Madness and me, I love brackets.
Yes.
We've done fast food brackets. We've done sit down restaurant brackets. I love a bracket. So I have a March Madness football movie bracket.
Okay.
However, I got 20 movies. To get to the main bracket, we have one, two, three, four, five matchups. That we need to clear up to get to the final bracket. I took the ratings of the top 20 movies, football movies. I think Ranker had it. I went through those top 20 movies and the top 20 football movies. I need to have football being the forefront. There were some movies I'm like, that's not really a football movie. I'm gonna eliminate on them. But we have six different brackets we need to clear up to get the true bracket going on it. So we'll call this the preliminary football movie bracket. So I'm gonna present it out there to you. We each say our pick, and then if we disagree, we'll have 30 seconds apiece to argue our case, and then we'll go from there. Okay? I don't think we will. I think these are pretty cut and dry on them. I don't need harsh opinions, which is rare for me. I got harsh opinions, a loud mouth, so we'll go from there. So number one bracket we need to clean up is the movie Radio or the movie The Replacements. What moves into the actual bracket?
The Replacements.
I completely agree. All right. This one's a little more obscure. Junction Boys or We Are Marshall?
We Are Marshall. No hesitation.
I know a Junction Boys from back in the day in ESPN made movies. But yeah, I agree with you. We Are Marshall. All right. Little Giants or Leatherheads? John
Think you gotta
Krasinski
go.
from The Office and George Clooney? Or was it The Refrigerator? No,
I think you got to go Leather Giants. Or not? Yeah, I got Leatherhead. Sorry.
I disagree. Little
Really?
Giants all the way.
Really?
Little Giants as a kid, man, that like was foundation for my life, man.
You know what? You went with mine the first two. Why don't we do Little Giants for this one?
Little Giants. Okay, Little Giants moves on. All
Especially
right.
since I butchered Leatherheads and I said Leather Giants. So I think that kind of defeated my take there.
Wildcats or Gridiron Gang?
Wildcats.
Wildcats. Okay, I'm good with that. Bring a little bit older movie to it.
Yeah. Shake it up a little bit.
This I have very hard opinions on right here. Very hard opinion on this one. Varsity Blue versus My All American.
Think you got to go Varsity Blues.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
I was sticking my flag in for that one for sure.
Yeah.
Varsity was a very tough matchup next. So that is my beginning category for the March Madness football movies. Do you want me to run through the other ones, other movies, or have it a surprise for next time?
We'll do a surprise for next time.
Okay. Now we have our let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, our 16 teams, our Sweet 16 on football movie madness going on. That was the fun March Madness that I had. What do you got? It was probably more related to actual March Madness.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I think we could have done yours after that just because that was a good segue. March Madness, I love a good bracket too. I also love statistics, right? I really dive into the analytics, right? So for me, you know more than most that when March Madness comes around, I get a little too into it. Perhaps I do 25 brackets, instead of like a solid one or two. So there is actually a very weird kind of code to who's going to win March Madness. And this was true once again last year when I picked UConn to win the whole thing, right? So I'm going to give you the 5 things that every March Madness champion has. And I've already narrowed down it to a final 6 of potential who's going to win the tournament. And I wanted to get that out now just in case we're not able to do episode 3 before the tournament actually kicks off. So the very first one is 100% of champions since 2002 have had there's that Ken Pom rankings or a Ken Pom ranking to where they have a top 40 offense and a top 22 defense, right? So 100% of champions since 2002, top 40 offense and top 22 defense. This is my favorite one of the 5 things. 100% of champions since 2004 have been ranked in the top 12 of the Week 6 Associated Press poll. All right? Very specific, very obscure, but it held true again last year where UConn was ranked 5th. And like I said, it goes all the way back to 2004. And this is the reason that I'm only at a top 6 because we don't have all these results yet. But 100% of champions since 1985 have finished at least in the semifinals of their conference tournament, right? And that's all going on currently right now. So last year, I know Tennessee, Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, and Creighton, they did not make it that far in their conference tournament, right before March Madness. And some of those were kind of like really popular teams that a lot of people picked to go far. And 1985, that's a pretty big sample size, right? Another one is if you split the United States of America in half and it went through the eastern part of the Dakotas, through Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, almost splits Texas right in half. Every champion since 1998 is located to the east of that line, right? So teams like Gonzaga, who are historically unable to finish, even when they have the best team in the bracket and have shot me in the foot with plenty of brackets in the past, they wouldn't be a contender this year if this is to hold true again since 1998. And then 100% of champions since 1990 were from a conference that at least had 3+ representatives in the tournament. Okay. So from that, again, without knowing who's actually selected, so we don't know how many teams are selected per conference. I grabbed the week six Associated Press poll, and I went to the top 12 teams, and I put them against the stats that we have so far, and I was able to eliminate half of that list. So I'm going on record as of now, and I'm going to give you 6 names, and one of these teams will be the March Madness champions.
Folks, write this down. Put your bets in.
Yes.
We don't have any sponsors, but if we did, we would push one of them to make a bet on.
Absolutely.
But this is guaranteed one of these top 6. If not, find Kevin.
Right. And this is something that, again, this list should shrink down a little bit by the time we actually get the rest of the results in. But today, the champions of the 2025 March Madness tournament will be one of the following schools: Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, Duke, Marquette, or Florida. Kentucky's out, Alabama's out, Gonzaga is out, Kansas is out, Purdue is out, and Oregon is out. So it's one of those 6 teams that I mentioned at the beginning: Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, Duke, Marquette, or Florida. One of those teams is your 2025 March Madness champion.
You heard it here first. We don't break news, but we're breaking news.
As of right now, I will make 6 brackets with one of them being the champion each one. I'm hoping that a couple of these guys get eliminated after the conference tournaments and just after Selection Sunday, just so I don't have to embarrassingly make 6 brackets again. But it's still down from 23 or 25 that I did last year. So
yeah, I see you making at least 18. Can I bet on how many you're gonna make?
You can. Again, we don't have a sponsor yet, but that once again we would push, like, go ahead. The over under is Kevin going to make 18.5 over under. How many brackets will he do?
Always take the over, guys. Always take the over.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Next talk. Like I said, I've got a lot of stuff to talk about as far as the NHL and the NBA goes, and it's going to be lining up to where we're probably going to have post free agency, but pre NFL draft. It's going to be right there as the NBA and NHL playoffs are kicking off. I do have a lot to talk about as far as what the Avalanche have done, but not only them, but what the Dallas Stars, for example, have done. The terrible management of their roster that the Carolina Hurricanes did. I have a lot of thoughts.
The abysmal Pittsburgh Penguins, they're just trading everybody and everything.
Your Penguins are doing good, Joel. I
No,
was
we're
happy
not.
to
Don't
see.
lie.
Yeah, a lot of people in Denver wanted Sidney Crosby to come to Colorado, even though it wasn't going to happen. It was a nice pipe dream. Um, but yeah, we got a lot
We
to
have
talk about
DK
with
Metcalf.
NBAs.
We're good. We have
Yeah,
DK Metcalf. The season on a high. We're ending on a high. We're good. Penguins can live in misery again, but we have DK Metcalf.
you have DK Metcalf. I can't wait to see what jersey you get. So, but yeah,
But that's gonna wrap up for this one, guys. Appreciate everyone joining us. Like the video. There'll be more to come. We're gonna try to do as regular as possible. Get these out. We appreciate it. Yins have been great. Thanks again. Have a good one, guys.